What's up, gangbangers? What's up, my people? What's up, pastors? People from the past. Welcome to episode 9 of Beating Ableton. Today we're putting Splice on ice. Sauce, please.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you.
It's fucking easy money. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't yet. And for those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Morgan, and this is Cracked Records. And this is Cracked Records. All right, before we go to Sauce Town, I'm just going to cook up a loop really quick just so I could show you guys exactly how I use the device. So we got this vocal right here.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy.
Let's go.
I'm feeling you, you feeling me.
So I'm just going to solo the kick and bass first. So we'll do solo, and then I'll do groove generator, and that's just going to give me a new loop to work with. So let's listen.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy.
Easy.
I'm feeling you, you feeling me.
Okay, so I think we want a different bass line. Let's hit this.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy.
So the first part is lit. Let's do randomized C phrase. So that's going to be the end over here.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy.
Easy money. And then let's go ahead and add in the hat.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy.
Yeah. Let's do randomize the hat selection.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me.
That's the one. Clap over here.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you.
It's fucking easy money. And let's add some perk fills.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy.
It's one take Jake. And then from there, I'm just bouncing out the drums with resampling. And then I'm just pulling in the bass line on a new MIDI track. And we're cooking. All right, before we dive into all the features, I'm just going to give you guys a quick overview of exactly how this thing works. So whenever you generate a groove, what's going to happen is it's going to randomly select between 300 different drum samples that are controlled by these macros over here. And then it's going to generate you new bassline MIDI, which you could see in this upper section right here. And then it's going to completely randomize this Serum 2 preset. So you have new drums, new bassline, new bass sound. So every time you generate a groove, it's pretty much just Saw City. And that way you don't have to like sift through your entire sample library and be fucking around with MIDI and Serum presets for hours before you get an idea down. You could just get quick inspiration and then dial it in with the rest of these controls. So before we hop into the generators over here, we have this section that's sort of like the setup for the MIDI generation. So first up, we have the root right here, which is going to tell the generator what key you're in. Then after that, we have the scale selector with a couple of traditional scales and then a couple cracked scales, which are just reduced minor scales that are more influenced by like the current house and techno sound. After that, we have these min and max sliders. So these tell the MIDI generator how far away from the root note the other notes can be. So they could be a maximum of plus 13 away and as low as -7 minus the root. Over here, we have this phrasing selector. So the MIDI clip is broken up into 4 half bar slots over the 2 bars. So the phrasing selects how repetitive or not the MIDI generation is. So if you had A, then all the half bar sections would be exactly the same. So it's just repetitive all the way through. Then if you did B, the last phrase would be different from the first 3, and then so on and so forth. I like to use ABAC just because the way I set up the algorithm, they all kind of build off each other. So B is still like working off of A, and then C is working off of B. So you get a slight bit of variation without too much change. And below that, we have the randomized phrase buttons. So we're on ABAC. So if we hit A for randomized phrase, it's only going to switch up the first phrase in the MIDI clip. So if you had something that sounded good, but like it wasn't quite perfect, you could just randomize the phrase to just re-roll that entire section. Then if we hit B, it would only do that second phrase, and then C would only do the last one. To the right, we have the note density, which tells it how many notes to put in the MIDI clip. So it's broken into 16th note slots, and the more density that you have, the more notes it's going to fill in. And below that, we have the note length. So you could have them all be short or medium length or long or swag, which is a combination between short and long. And then you could just set it to random, which is the default, which pretty much just says they could be any length. And finally, below that, we have the randomized baseline button. So this is just going to re-roll your baseline MIDI. Over here, we have the root note slider. So this is going to tell the MIDI generator what percentage of the notes should be in the root note. So if we hit randomized baseline, we have it set to 100%. So all the notes are going to be in the root note. Below that, we have the swing percentage. So if you look at the even notes over here, every even note gets more swung the more this is set up. So if we wanted no swing at all, we could have them all on the grid, which is boring as fuck. And then if we wanted a bunch of swing, we could have it set to 100, and then it's going to completely swing it off the grid right here. Below that, we have the spread percentage right here. So I'm just going to initialize the patch really quick just so you guys can see how this works. And then I'm just going to do the minor scale. So if we have the spread set up at 100%, that tells the MIDI generator that the notes could be anywhere in between the min and max in relation to the root. And then the more you decrease this, the more it's going to favor notes towards the root note. So if we have this set to 0, then all the notes are going to be in the root. And then the more we increase it, the further away they're allowed to be from the root note. Then below that, we have the randomized velocity slider. So this is going to introduce random velocity changes on some of the notes.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me.
Lastly, in this section, we have the mutate selector. So a mutation is just going to be a slight variation of a phrase instead of just re-rolling it entirely like randomization. So if you hit this selector right here, you could only mutate the pitch, length, add or remove notes, pitch swap, note swap, and velocity, or you could just have it set to random. And this just gives you the option to just give like a minor change to a phrase, and that way you could dial it in perfectly. Sauce check, sauce check.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy.
Still grooving? So after you get this section all dialed in, we have the generators over here. So again, the groove generator is just going to look at all your values and then generate you an entirely new MIDI clip and then re-roll all the macros to give you new drum sounds and a new Serum bass. Below that, we have the randomize all. So if you look at this randomization section over here, when you hit randomize all, it's going to look at all the ranges you have set up right here, and then it's going to re-roll all of these selections first and then generate you a new groove. So that's just good for when you're starting completely from scratch and you don't really have an idea to go off of. This is just going to give you completely random sauce. Then if you wanted to, there's all these little locks over here. So if you lock these, it's not going to randomize it. So if you wanted to dial in just the root, you could just lock the root right here, and then it's not going to change the root when you hit randomize all. Below that, we have the randomize drums button. So the first page of macros is going to control all the drum sounds. So when you hit randomize drums, it's just going to re-roll all of these. And the same goes for the bass. So if we go to page 2 of the macros, when you hit the randomize bass button, it's just going to switch up all of these macros, which are controlling the Serum 2 bass preset. And just to go over these bass macros really quickly. So the first one is the oscillator A wavetable. So we have a completely custom Serum 2 bass preset in here that I made. And the first oscillator has 256 wavetables that I put in here that are just most fitting for this style of music. So if you shift through this, it's just going to control the oscillator A's wavetable position. Then we have B's wavetable position and B level. Then we have the filter frequency, which controls the Serum filter cutoff, and the Q, which controls the resonance. And to the left of that, we have all these filter mod macros. So if you look over here in the bass chain, I have a shaper set up to control the filter in here. So if we listen,
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you, you feeling me.
so if you see this macro 8 right here, the shaper is mapped to that, and that's just meant to give you more movement within the bass preset without having to draw it in yourself. So this first macro controls how far up the shaper will go, and then the position determines where in the shaper that it starts when you press play. So this would be where it normally starts. So right on the 1, it would start there. But if you change the position, it's going to maybe start it like in the middle or wherever you have the slider set to. Then the last one is going to be the mod speed. So this just controls how many repetitions the shaper does. So if you turned it up,
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling you.
it's going to do more or less repetitions of the shaper. Then over here, we have the envelope controls. So the envelope mod is going to control the entire length of the envelope. So if you look at macro 6 over here, this controls the decay, sustain, and release all at once. So if you had a shorter sound,
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you feeling me. Give me it.
so if you pull this up, it's going to make the envelope longer. And then if you shorten it, it's going to make it shorter. And then the scale controls how much the envelope is controlling the filter. The last thing to note for the bass preset is this randomize B wavetable. So I have this trigger macro set up to the cracked Serum 2 randomizer. And what this is going to do is every time you hit this, it's going to randomly shift through all the wavetables. So if you look at the range over here, it's going to go either up or down within 35 wavetables of the current wavetable. And that's just going to give you the biggest variation within the preset. And we do have some new and improved sauce for the macros. So if you look at these little void icons right here, if you hit these, they're going to randomize just particular sections of the macros. So the top one's going to randomize just the top row. And my God, look at that animation though. Sheesh. Then the middle one's going to do all 8 and the bottom one will do the bottom row. And if you hit shift click on these, it's going to randomize within 25% of the value. And then if you do control or option click, it's going to do within 10% of the value. So if you were randomizing something like the A wavetable position and you didn't want it to be too different from where it is, you could hold shift or control. And then that way it's not going to randomize the entire range. It's just going to keep it in a shorter range. And lastly, we have the individual randomizers and the locks right here. So if you hit the lock, it's not going to be touched by the randomization. So if you wanted to lock the kick and the hat and the clap, you could just hit those. And that way, when you generate groove, it's not going to change those at all. Sauce check, sauce check.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you feeling me. Give me your energy.
Then lastly, for the generators, we have this percussion section. So when you hit perk fills, it's going to look at the number you have set right here, and then it's going to pick slots that aren't occupied by baseline MIDI. So like I said, every 16th note is a slot. So it's going to look for open slots and then add a perk fill in that slot. So if we listen now.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling.
And then we could randomize the sound right here.
Give me your energy. I'm feeling you feeling me. Give me your energy. I'm feeling.
And then if you wanted to re-roll it, you could just clear it right here or just press it again and it'll give you a new selection. Then we have accent perks, which is going to do the opposite. So it's going to look to layer the perks on top of the bass notes. All right, gang, that's going to do it for Groove God. If you want to snag the device, I added a one-time purchase on the website. And if you want all the crack sauce, we still have the yearly subscription. Links will be in the description. That rhymed. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.